Amin al-Husseini was an Arab Palestinian nationalist. He was both Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and president of the Supreme Muslim Council from 1922 to 1937, and president of the All-Palestine Protectorate from 1948 to 1953. Amin al-Husseini was one of the many political leaders of the Arab Revolt in Palestine, a Palestinian nationalist revolt which attempted to create a Palestinian state independent from British rule, but this revolt was crushed by the British in 1939 with the help of Zionist paramilitaries. After the failed revolt, Amin al-Husseini fled Palestine to Europe, in which he would ally with both Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. Amin al-Husseini was strongly anti-Semitic, and he allied with Hitler because of that, and because he held this false belief that Hitler cared about the people of Palestine and would liberate his people. After World War II, Amin al-Husseini participated politically in the Palestinian Arab side during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. In 1948, the Egypt-backed All-Palestine government was proclaimed in Gaza, with al-Husseini as a leading figure. However, it had limited authority, depended heavily on Egypt, and never functioned as a fully sovereign Palestinian state. Egypt gradually reduced its autonomy before formally abolishing it in 1959. Amin al-Husseini died in Lebanon in 1974. Amin al-Husseini was a major Palestinian nationalist who collaborated with Nazi Germany, strongly affected how Palestinian nationalism has been perceived in the West. However, he was neither the inventor of Palestinian nationalism nor the creator of the idea of a Palestinian state, and historians overwhelmingly reject the claim that he initiated or inspired the Holocaust. But this begs the question, did Amin al-Husseini, an Arab Palestinian nationalist who was strongly anti-Semitic and even allied with Hitler, invent the idea of a Palestinian state? Did Hitler indirectly or directly create Palestinian nationalism? Palestinian nationalism has long existed before Amin al-Husseini was even born, and he was born in 1897. In fact, in 1834, there was a peasants' revolt in Palestine, which was caused by Egyptian conscription and taxation policies in Palestine, in which many Palestinian tribes revolted. And this revolt happened before Theodor Herzl was born in 1860. To quote the Wikipedia article about Palestinian nationalism within the late Ottoman Empire, under the Ottomans, Palestine's Arab population mostly saw themselves as Ottoman subjects. In the 1830s, however, Palestine was occupied by the Egyptian vassal of the Ottomans. Muhammad al and his son Ibn Pasha. The Palestinian Arab Revolt was precipitated by popular resistance against heavy demands for conscripts, as peasants were well aware that conscription was little more than a death sentence. Starting in May 1834, the rebels took many cities, among them Jerusalem, Hebron, and Nablus. In response, Ibn Pasha sent in an army, finally defeating the last rebels on the 4th of August in Hebron. People often think that Amin al-Husseini was one of the earliest and inventors of Palestinian nationalism. But the truth is that there have been Palestinian nationalists and people within the Levant region who considered themselves Palestinians long before Amin al-Husseini. And these people were not ideologically anti-Semitic or far-right like Amin al-Husseini. For example, Isa el-Isa, a Palestinian Christian who founded the newspaper Palestine in 1911, in which Palestine was a Palestinian nationalist newspaper, and back in 1911, Amin al-Husseini was only 14 years old. Isa el-Isa joined a Palestinian nationalist anti-Zionist party that was not anti-Semitic, known as the National Defense Party of Mandatory Palestine, and also Najib Nasser, a Palestinian Christian who founded the Palestinian Nationalist newspaper Al-Carmel in 1908, which Najib Nasser also opposed the Ottoman Empire joining World War I, and the newspaper Al-Carmel even supported women's rights. I think it's important to note that Hitler did not like Muslim people. Hitler was a white supremacist, and Islam originates from Arabia. To quote an article from Cambridge University Press called Nazi Germany and Islam in Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. In his global bestseller Inside the Third Reich, Adolf Hitler's former architect and armaments minister, Albert Speer, cited the German dictator's view that if the Arabs had won the Battle of Taurus in the 8th century, quote, the world would be Muhammad today. That was the case. He continued, theirs was a religion that believed in spreading the faith by the sword and subjugating all nations to their faith. The Germanic people would have become the heirs to that religion. Such a creed was perfectly suited to the Germanic temperament. Yet, because of what Hitler called Arabs' racial inferiority and inability to handle the harsher climate, they could have not kept down the more vigorous natives. So the ultimately not Arabs but Islamized Germans would have stood at the head of this Muhammadan empire. Hitler concluded, it's been our misfortune to have the wrong religion. Why didn't we have the religion of the Japanese, who regarded sacrifice for the fatherhood as their highest good? The Muhammadan religion, too, would have been much more compatible to us than Christianity. Why did it have to be Christianity with its meekness and feebleness? Hitler did not like Muslims or Arabs, and he viewed them as racially inferior. But the reason why Hitler was friendly towards Arabs like Amin al-Husseini was to weaken the British, because, well, also the British and also, allied Europeans who colonized the Middle East. Hitler wanted to weaken them, but not to liberate the people of the Middle East, but just to, just so he could conquer them eventually. But Hitler did not have any empathy towards the Arabs of the Middle East or any group that was colonized by European powers in any sense of the world. And also, when I say the word Muhammadan, I'm referring to Islam. Muhammadan is an old name for Islam, and it eventually Muhammadan became Islam. So that's what that means. In case you don't understand what Muhammadan means, it's named after the Prophet Muhammad, who founded Islam. It is true that there was never an ancient sovereign quote-unquote kingdom of Palestine, though the region contained many states, including the kingdoms of Israel and Judea. But like what I said in a previous video, the kingdom of Israel only controlled modern day northern Israel, was basically like a small alliance of Jewish tribes. The ancient kingdom of Israel wasn't like this huge country that contained all of modern day Israel, West Bank, Gaza, and Jordan and Lebanon. No, the kingdom of Israel was, relatively like a small country, or even not even just an alliance of tribes, basically. Though it still heavily debated the scale and power of the kingdom of Israel, even though the United Kingdom of Israel, or the United Monarchy of Israel, never actually existed. Modern day Palestinians descend from ancient Levant populations, including the Canaanites, and also the ancient Israelites, who ancient Israelites and modern day Israelis are not, the same thing. And also Judeans and Samaritans and others, and mixed with later populations over the centuries. In antiquity, people identify mainly with tribes, kingdoms, cities, and religions, rather than modern nationalism. After the Iron Age, the region was ruled successfully by many different empires, by the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Helsinkians, the Romans, the Byzantine, the many different Islamic empires, then the Ottoman Empire, then the Ottoman Empire collapsed in World War I, and then the British took over Palestine. The early 1900s really saw the rise of nationalism, and likewise, Palestinian nationalism is relatively recent. The first Palestinian nationalist newspaper was made in 1908, but if you truly believe that, oh, Palestine isn't a real country, there's no such thing as a Palestinian, just because Palestinian nationalism is relatively recent, then if you don't believe that Palestine is a country, then you would also have to believe that Estonia is not a real country either. The first Estonian state was founded in 1918. Before 1918, there was a Duchy of Estonia, then some Prussian, then Polish-aligned states, before Estonia got absorbed back into Russia. But the Duchy of Estonia under Denmark and then Sweden, despite having Estonia in its name, was not an independent state. Likewise, Mandatory Palestine, despite being Palestinian and having the name Palestine, was not an independent state. It was under British control. After 1918, Estonia remained independent until 1940, when it got occupied by the Soviets, and only became a country again in 1991. Likewise, in 1948, there was a Palestinian government that ruled over Gaza, that claimed all of Palestine, but didn't control all of Palestine, only controlled Gaza, and in 1952, it got absorbed by Egypt. But then Palestine became a country again in 1988, when it gained independence from Israel. But the point is that Palestinian nationalism has existed before Ayman al-Husseini was born, before, Ayman al-Husseini met Hitler or any of this. It started in the late Ottoman Empire, and Palestinian nationalism is not an anti-Semitic ideology any more than any other nationalist movement is. Palestinian nationalism opposes Zionism not out of anti-Semitism, but on the basis that the indigenous Palestinians have a right to self-determination on their own land. But anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I wanna thank everyone for how good the previous video has done with 2,000 views. I mean, I thought it would do good. I just didn't expect that much, but yeah, I just want to say thank you for that. And I also want to thank you for 122 subscribers. And every time I go back and look at this, I look at my subscriber count, it keeps going up. So I just want to really thank you guys for that. And yeah, see you in the next video. Peace.